Good morning. Continental breakfast, coffee and a fag. Uh, First thing, Keen Ramsey is his name, not Keen Egan, so I just said I put that right first. Now, the sixth thing I want to talk about, I've never been a big fan of Greta Greenberg, you know. I used to call her a pawn, but that's not the worst thing you could be. For me, the worst thing you could be is an NPC, a non-player character. Because all life is a game of all life is theatre. You can take it either way, but but play. You know what I mean? Play, and or you can be an NPC, a non-player character, but maybe you can't change that. I don't know. Maybe it can be a conscious choice. I can only speak for myself. But I used to call Greta Greenberg a pawn, and I suppose maybe she's I don't know. But I don't want to talk about that anyway. I do want to talk about her reply to Andrew Tate. Small dick energy at getalife.com. And I have to say, that was thought provoking and worth thinking about. Small dick energy. Is small dick energy a thing? And I have to agree with the girl, it very much is. Freud used to have a thing called penis. He had this thing about penis envy, which he projected onto women, and he used to say women have penis envy. But when I read this, I say that's a projection, because what you see in others, look for in yourself first, but you tend to, you don't see the world as it is. People tend to see it as they are. And I know that's a bit of an affirmation, but that's the truth. And you see, this is where small dick energy comes into it. You see, people project their insecurities onto everybody else, and small dick energy is rampant in a patriarchal society. And I've come to realise this, that small dick energy is rampant in a patriarchal society. And I'm going to explain exactly what that is now. If you ever get somebody who's insecure in themselves, they gaslight people and they tear people down and they do everything bad, but they don't want to address their own insecurities. They want to project, their own misery onto everybody else. They want to pull everybody else down, but to make themselves feel better. But they don't want to address their own shortcomings. They don't even want to acknowledge their own shortcomings. And then when somebody like this hits them in the face with their own shortcomings, they don't like it. They don't like it. But the thing is, I don't give two fucks what they like. So the universe says to me, it doesn't matter what you like. But, so small dick energy. And I want to tell you a story I've been thinking about to support this small dick energy theory. I remember a girl asked me one time to go to a concert, Paddy Case lecture. And I couldn't go for one reason or another. So she took this fella she met on Tinder or one of these dating sites and went off to the concert. And I said to her, well, how was the concert? How was the do, And she said, it was shit. He wanted to have sex before we went out, and then when we had sex, she said 3 strokes and it was all over. And then he treated me like shit for the whole weekend. Now, that's small dick energy. And that's a very insecure man, and then projects his insecurities onto her, and he treated her like shit for the weekend. And this is patriarchy in a nutshell. And of course, like what you see in others, look for yourself first, but I never had this problem, to be honest. I remember I had a bit of an issue one time when I owned at the gym. The medicine board came in and raided my gym, but there was no steroids in the gym. But to make a long story short, anyway, they were bringing me to court for this, for the possession of steroids. But yeah, it was like to bring me to court for the possession of steroids, but the whole thing is not over yet, because like steroids are illegal for your own personal use. And they were saying that I had too much steroids for one person, like it was too much for personal use. But steroids at the time, this was I think 2012, steroids at the time were in the same categorization legally as alcohol. You have to have a license for sale and supply. That's the deal. You have to have a license for sale and supply. But they said to myself, well, you've too much steroids for your own personal use, you must be selling them. Now, I didn't make the argument in court because, again, we'll come back to the whole stress thing. And dealing with stress and how you should really write down your questions before you go in, because when you're in a stressful situation, you can't think. And so even though I had a defence prepared, I didn't have the defence written down. And when I was asked, have I any more questions, I couldn't think. And this is why I say, negative visualization. You think about the stressful situation, and then you ask your questions before you write down your questions, so you have your questions ready, you have your thinking done, and then you don't have to think in the stressful situation. But the question I wanted to say to them is that, what about people with wine cellars? They've large volumes of wine. They've whole cellars full of wine. And they couldn't possibly be going to drink all that. So that means they must be fucking selling it. And it's the very same fucking thing. It's the very same fucking question, very same situation. That the same rule applies. And probably every one of them have big cellars of wine. And they were projecting their morality onto me. But it's the very same fucking thing. The very same rule applies. So surely they still are trying to do me for the possession of having too much for my own personal use. The same applies to them. They must also go out and arrest everybody who has big cellars of wine, because they fucking must have too much for their own personal use. But anyway, to make a long story short, they brought me in anyway, and they were they were questioning me, and the thing says to me, 750 Viagra. Now their maths was wrong, but it says to me, you have 750 Viagra. We calculate, he said, that's if you take 2 a week, he said, that's a 2.5 year supply. And I says to him, 2 a week? 2 a week? I said, my good man, I'm on test. I said, I sex 3 times a day. I said, I don't really get dressed on a Sunday. And I started laughing, and I says, is that what you get? Twice a week? And I started laughing, and I says to your man who was writing down everything, I said, did you write that down? And he says, no. And I said, write that down. I said, you write down everything else. And then I laughed at his man, I said, I'm going to put that in the wall of the gym. But I didn't have to put it in the wall of the gym, because it was read out in the court. It was read out in the court, and it was in the national newspaper, then it was in the Sunday World. Man has large quantity of Viagra for his own personal supply, or whatever it was, for his own busy sex life. But they seem to find this. But the whole thing that transpired from this is, I met men after this who said, you're telling lies. You're lying like. And I said, no, I'm not lying. I said, I'm not lying. I don't tell lies. But I said, if you were any fucking good at it, you'd be getting more sex. But the thing about men is they're no good at it, because they don't strive for any excellence at all. They just ground and pound, get my own end away. And that's why they didn't even discover the clitoris, that was lost, until 1958. Because they don't give a fuck. All they give a fuck about is getting their own end away, and that's all they care about. And this is what causes a lot of the fucking stress and a lot of fucking misery in women. And then they project their shortcomings onto women. And this is small dick energy. Their own fucking insecurities projected onto women. That's what small dick energy is. And yeah. But what I'd suggest to these men is, if you want to address your shortcomings, this is why I was when I was at the festival. Now, I'm not professing to be the next Ron Jeremy or anything else. I never really got any complaints, but it's not an issue for me, because the first thing is, the mind is the biggest sex organ you have. I'll tell you that now, for starters. And if you have a good mental connection, a really good mental connection, in other words, I remember that time, there was 2 crazy people, and big fucking energy. Now throw in a couple of lines of speed, few smokes of a joint, and maybe a bottle of wine, And now you're running big fucking energy because you're both in a transcendent state, and it's big energy, like you're nearly going to blow the board. And then you can imagine what it's like if you take psychedelics. If you take psychedelics, now you have the ultimate spiritual experience, the whole, not like usually if you're at a rave, like or a rave or a good rave, like a good trance, if you're at trance, it's like everybody is one. It's a one big love buzz. Everybody is one because the default mode network is gone. It's dissolved, so everybody is one. You lose all illusion of the self. So if you're having sex and psychedelics, this is a spiritual experience because it's a transcendent state with the two in a transcendent state, and it's the ultimate two become one experience. Now doesn't matter what drugs you take. I'll tell you now, this is addictive shit. This is addictive shit. And that's why I say, if you're crazy enough, don't touch me. Don't touch me. If you're crazy enough, that's my insecurity. And my problem is, is the fact that there was a price for this addiction. There was a price for this addiction. And the price for this addiction was, I remember standing at a bodybuilding competition one time. And I used to go to the bodybuilding competitions. And I used to love the bodybuilding competitions. But I remember at one particular bodybuilding competition, standing in the toilets while the bikini was going on. Now, I used to train women for bikini, like, but the jealousy was such that I had to stand in the toilets while the bikini was going on. And I remember standing in those toilets saying to myself, what the fuck have you become? What the fuck have you become? How have you been reduced to this? How have you lost? What are you doing standing in the toilets when bikini is on? Now, that's a complete loss of freedom and a complete loss of self-control. And this is where that addiction got me. And my highest value is my freedom. That's my highest value. And that's what I seek to retain at all costs. You can keep your fucking job, you can keep your fucking sex, you can keep anything. My highest value is my freedom. My freedom. And this is why I say that you must stay in control of yourself, you must stay in control of yourself. And my insecurity is, what I just need to acknowledge is to just stay in control of myself. And it's not the drugs, and it's not the sex, and it's not the women. The problem is a lack of self-control. But then that is up to me, isn't it? That's up to me to stay in control of myself. And that's for me, the freedom, lads. But the whole thing is that the small dick energy is a fucking big thing, and you have to realise this. And you have to start fucking holding men accountable and start saying, like, listen, this shit's not going to cut it anymore. Because this is in a patriarchal society, this is the shit that is cutting it, and then projecting their insecurities onto everybody else. Make them address their insecurities. Make them fucking go and learn some tantric massage. Or improve their fucking, educate themselves or improve their mind, that they can fucking talk about more than fucking football and UFC. Football and UFC. And if you want, it has to extend beyond football and UFC. For starters, you have to start giving a fuck about what women like. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be into their beauty, and I love gossip. But I used to be into the beauty, a bit of fashion, a bit of fucking, like, I had a talent salon and a nail bar. But you have to, it's not just about the men, it's all about the men, It's all about the football and the UFC, and then ground and pound. You know what I mean? And what I'm trying to say here is that maybe as a society, this is why I say we'll have a matriarchy as opposed to a matriarchal society as opposed to a patriarchal society, and start holding these fuckers accountable and start exploiting their fucking this whole insecurities thing until such point as they address them. And that's in everybody's fucking interest, that they address these insecurities. But if we don't start calling them out on it, and we don't start exploiting these insecurities, then they're never going to have cause or reason to address them. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I say it's universally, it's in everybody's interest to call this shit out and make them accountable. But what we won't do is, we won't oppress them. Because this is what brings us round in an internal reoccurrence. The oppressed becoming the oppressor, the oppressed becoming the oppressor. But when you think for yourself and you look back on history and you say to yourself, right, let's do something fucking different. This is the first thing you must address. When we do build this matriarchy, we don't oppress them. We just do our own fucking thing. We do exploit them, but we don't oppress them. You know, there's a difference. There's a fucking difference. Well, that's it for this morning. Good morning. Talk to you tomorrow.